Well, goodness gracious. Happy afternoon. Happy Wolves. Maybe this is the second official crash out game that I think, judging by Wolves Twitter, that we're in the midst of. But we do have a podcast to run. So I'm Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage. This is the Missing Wolves post-game live stream podcast thing. And we have Ryan Eichten live from Atlanta joining the podcast. Ryan, how's it going, man?
It's going fine. I had a flight down here, went fine. It's warmer here than back home, so we're doing all right. But basketball-wise, less so.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I missed the first quarter because I was finishing up some stuff at the day job, like got home from my last patient, came downstairs, turned the TV on just to see Chris Finch lose a challenge, and the Wolves were down by like 20. And I was like, man, this is an afternoon game in Ant's hometown. Like, yeah, this kind of checks out. Then I looked at the box score, and Ant was kind of going, he was doing his thing, scoring at least, and proceeded to watch some pretty uninspiring basketball. Is that a fair adjective to use, Ryan?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, last game I saw you at was that Brooklyn game 4 days ago, and it felt pretty similar to that one. Felt like these guys, I mean, they're on a bus to get on a plane now to go party New Year's or do whatever they want to do. And it felt like right from the beginning of the game that's where their heads were at, unfortunately. And it's just another one of those games where, like, right from the tip, they didn't have the right mindset. And it's frustrating because I usually don't like breaking down like the mindset and the effort, because every team goes through it up and down, and we don't know. Is it just poor play because of execution or what have you, or is it effort? But it's hard to take these games and what they say after the games or before the games and not notice that it's like effort and attention to detail, all that sort of usually like frou-frou stuff or whatever is really holding them back lately.
And what's kind of crazy is, this is still a team that's 8 games above 500. They're, at time of recording, exactly 3 games behind the Spurs and the Nuggets, who the Spurs have not won since they beat Oklahoma City in back-to-back nights. The Nuggets have not won since they beat the Wolves on Christmas Day. And the Wolves are 1-2 since those kind of worlds collided. And I think there is some truth to, like, every team in the modern NBA has a mindset that is just, you just take some games off. I was honestly like super weird, but like Kevin Durant had a couple tweets that popped up on my feed, and he was talking about how like the regular season has kind of been ruined by ring culture and by like the product aspect of of basketball, and just like there just isn't a lot of faith put in regular season play like there used to be. But it does kind of seem that it trends that way. I mean, Oklahoma City is maybe the only team in the league that takes every game seriously every night. Maybe the Pistons, you can say, as well. I mean, I'm sure people in the Knicks market in Boston and even Cleveland are all kind of crashing out as well. But like, Ryan, do you think this is just like a larger problem with the league, or do you feel like it is a little bit worse with the Wolves that they do consistently kind of take games off like this?
Yeah. So right now, right this second, right the past maybe month, for certainly 2 weeks, it's certainly a problem with the Wolves and with this Wolves team. And It does feel like it spans multiple seasons. I did ask Dante after the game, like, especially because he's the lone guy that has been on a championship roster, like this kind of stuff. He talked for 5 minutes before that about all the issues that are going on. And just kind of all of this stuff. Is it unique to this team, or have you seen it in other organizations? He was very quick to say it's every team. Every team goes through this type of stuff, and he'd be the first to tell you that's not an excuse. But I think like this idea that it's unique to the Wolves is not true. Now, I think to win a championship, you have to get almost all of this, or pretty much like the valleys can't be this low. You need a lot more consistency than this, and they need to figure that out before the playoffs, because I think like last year you saw them, they made the 6th seed, and the reason why they were 6th seed last year was not this type of stuff. It was more figuring it out, but they made a run after being the 6th seed, but ultimately weren't all that close to winning the championship, or certainly weren't all that close to beating Oklahoma City in that series. And I just continue to feel like this type of stuff needs to be ironed out before the playoffs. You need to go on. You need to have, like, even like last year where they went on the run late, they lost to an Indiana team without Halliburton at the time, the infamous Obi Toppin game. So I still think obviously they could keep playing like this and win a playoff series. If they were the 6th seed again and the Lakers are the 3 seed, they could beat that team again. That's not that inconceivable, but like to win a playoff series against one or both of OKC or Denver, like they just need to start at some point playing far more consistently, sticking to the game plans, like all of this stuff. And that it's not just one player. I think there's not even really a player like I could pick out that's like this person is not to blame. It's top to bottom on the roster, and I think what's tough is like we've had like the mea culpa, is that how you say it? We've had that a couple of times now, 4 days ago, most recently, and it feels like it's not sticking. Now that doesn't mean it can't stick, but like right now, I mean, if they play like this again, the Heat will run up and down the floor against them too. So something's got to change.
Completely agree. Like for them to win a championship, which, like as Cole says in the chat, like all of this would be fine if the Wolves didn't say they were a championship team. And yeah, Mike Inori did say it. I don't know if you caught wind of it, but on the halftime broadcast said this was the worst half of basketball in his 5 years. There was no pun, no smile, there was nothing. But I completely agree with you. I think that's one of the most kind of confusing points with this team is that it isn't just one player. Like Ant is kind of sleepwalking on defense. Julius gets really sticky with the ball. Dante's missing shots. Jaden can look disinterested at time. And like tonight, Rudy didn't look good. Like from the tip ball to the final whistle, like Rudy was kind of just a layup lane, which like, yes, it does help if people are getting into the ball like before they have a full head of steam at you in a layup line. But still, like it just like I know a lot of people online are very quick to say like this might be a Chris Finch problem, but like I think it's just like a roster maturity problem more than anything, don't you think?
Yeah, and I go back to what Dante put it on him. He said when asked about the coaching staff, he's like, they're doing their job. They're putting us in this. It's on them, and that's what I kind of continue to believe. I posted Finch's full press conference with poor video quality. Now, I'm not as good as you at staying.
Hey, people love the Blair Witch film. I can attest to that.
Well, it felt like we were getting murdered in the woods out there. How about that? That's my train of thought. But yeah, Dante put it on them, and that's something that like people. Like I posted after your question at the Brooklyn game where Finch had the quote is like, well, if they were really self-aware, they'd do something about it. Yeah. And people kind of latched onto that and be like, well, you can do something about it. And it's not to say the coaching staff can't do better or whatever, but like, I really believe it's on the players. It's on the individual. And I think about Rudy Gobert. I think if you had to point out a person that was least culpable for like these type of performances, it'd probably be Rudy. Mm-hmm. But what I'll say is what's very clear is he's had a lot of good games basically since the turn to December. This month he's been awesome, and he's had 2 poor games, which was the Nets game and the Bulls game. So I do think like for Rudy, it is like he is like their most consistent player right now. And so when he does have a bad game, like everyone has bad games, it really like. And then add on, I think the other like thing is like when they're not hitting shots. That's like I noted this earlier. It's like. Every category between pace and rebounding and all, like they're like league average in that, which isn't necessarily bad. But like the one thing they do is just have effective field goal percentages, top 5. I'm assuming it still is. And so when you don't have that, I think some of the other parts like a road, they don't have like the second thing to fall back on. And I think that's not like a death sentence, but what if you don't have like a second premier thing in your team? I think it's got to be like mental strength or toughness or whatever the heck we've been talking about for these 10 minutes.
I mean, that's again, it's just so hard because you look at this team and you go, well, do they need more veteran leadership? And it's like they have Mike, Julius, Dante, Rudy, and Joe. Like that. guy that have won championships, guys that have been the 2 seed in the East and the West, guys that have been all-stars, that have been all NBA guys. I mean, you look at Mike, he's played with everyone from Marc Gasol and Tony Allen to now Ant and Julius. Like, they have the wisdom to like go back on. I mean, then you like it's not a veteran thing. Is it like the young guys need to develop? It's, you know, Jaden's in the midst of his best season. Ant, I'd say, is like arguably this is his best season thus far. Nas has been up and down, but you know, he's still Nas, has games where he can swing it by himself. Like, it's so hard to kind of pick what this team needs. And then you go back to the coaching and it's like, I mean, Finch has a great staff. Like, he has Nori, he has Prigioni, he has, you know, Elston Turner that he can rely on. Like, it's not like a lack of preparation thing. So I think like the worst answer and probably the most truthful answer is that these guys just don't seem to care unless the lights are on them or unless it's a team that they know they can like make a statement with to win. And so far that's at least where my head's at. Is it's more of just these guys just a 2 p.m. game against the Hawks. They're not really invested.
Yeah, and that's like the thing I think that has to change. It can't be
completely agree, by the way. Like, for them to win a championship, that has to change. You are spot on.
It's not that you can't have games like this, individual games like this, but like they're coming at like what feels like a 50% rate, or certainly like just it feels like a lot more where it's like it instead of a couple times a week, it's got to be a couple times a season where these type of performances are. And it's like their travel hasn't been, and I don't think it really gets harder, but like it's not been a big travel thing. If they had this performance when they're upcoming back to back in Washington, I think like you can somewhat excuse it. Like, it's not easy to travel even with the fancy planes they have, but like tonight it's the second game of a road trip and you have an extra day off in Miami. That is one storyline I'm willing to look for. They're going to get to South Beach tonight, or Miami, I should say, tonight, and they're going to have all of Thursday and all of Friday before Saturday's game. I mean, it's probably unfair of me to extrapolate any further than that, but like,
did you ever see the breakdown of James Harden where they went by Yelp reviews of strip clubs versus like James Harden's career win-loss, and Miami was like 4-star strip clubs and by far his lowest winning percentage?
That's what I meant by
some something to walk on that.
That is what I meant by unfair to extrapolate. I'm not doing that with this road trip.
Yeah, and again, like that's the other thing. Like, you look at other teams around the league, I think you can look at some players and be like, well, that guy probably isn't as locked in on the road like when they're in LA or Miami. And it's like the Wolves don't really have those guys either. Like, Jaden, Nas, and Ants are pretty like level-headed mid-20-year-old young men, and the older guys on the team are I mean, I don't think Rudy is going out clubbing like every road trip. That guy's body looks like he's never ingested a carb. So I don't know how well like grain alcohol would treat him, but
Mike's going to be sitting at the hotel room watching the Buckeyes. That's what Michael will be doing.
Exactly. So it's just such a weird dynamic with this team because they're just literally, other than just the care factor, it's so hard to nail it down. I do want to ask you though, like what was Finch's vibe post game? Was he similar to that Brooklyn game, or what did you get out of him after?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are just kind of like they're kind of out of answers with how to, like, you can't come in after every one of these losses and start cussing them out. I don't know when. Maybe he did that today. Maybe he did that none like the Brooklyn game. Maybe none of them. But like, there's been too many of these instances where, like, in theory, you could go in and cuss the players out. It's like it doesn't. It loses its luster, and so I think that's part of it. I asked him about like changing up the rotation. And he rejected that pretty quickly. Obviously, they could minute here, minute there, player like whatever. But like he kind of said, we've been switching up the rotation. We've changed it up from past games. So he didn't seem to think that's the issue. But yeah, I guess I would I would advise people to go listen to the full thing. It was only like 3 minutes, but yeah, I think it's a little bit of, they're just dumbfounded with why these games are happening at such a rapid rate. I did have a good stat if you give me a second to pull it up here, because like the difference between their first half, so past 15 games coming into today, and the first half will get worse, and the second, both of these numbers will get worse because both halves are bad. But last 15 games, 24th in offense, 21st in defense, 22nd in net rating in the first halves. And in the second half, they're fourth on offense, first on defense, first in net rating by a margin double of second team. So in the past 15 games, they are kicking ass in the second halves. And I think that like that's what's happening in these games is they got comfortable kind of putting together poor first halves. And now that the second half boomlets that we've been seeing previously, now that those are dying out, you just are left with like the husk of a game.
And that, I mean, you kind of saw it in this game where, Dante hits a couple threes. They start to get it going a little bit in the third quarter. And then Atlanta just kind of honestly closed the door on them. Jalen Johnson went on a little bit of a run. And I mean, you're 100% right. Like, that is another like clear sign that they're coming into these games almost expecting them to not like, almost expecting it to be easy. I would say of, you see Brooklyn on the calendar. I think especially with how talented this team is, you probably think that you're going to be able to get in there and get out of there with the win pretty easily. And they swing first in the first half, and it almost like takes them a couple quarters to like figure out what to do. But it's just such a bizarre team. I do want to ask you, about what can be done with this roster, just because they're in a sticky spot. But first, I'm going to throw us over to a couple ad reads here. Then I do think it's fair to probably talk about trades, like what they have. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read, this time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. Just catching up on chat here a little bit. Teresa says, I thought they were better at doing away games because less responsibilities on the home end. I think for some guys, that's completely true. Like I've talked to Jaden about it a couple times over the last year, and like not having to be home with a newborn and a 1-year-old, definitely he sleeps better on the road, I would assume. Ant, I would kind of assume the same. It's a much more structured environment for the most part. Like you have to be at a certain place at a certain time. I do think road games for guys that have young kids are probably not that they don't want to be like good fathers, because I do think Jaden wants to be a good dad, but it's just a little bit easier when you know that you don't have to like wake up with a child. Pack mentality feels like shots aren't falling. They give up everywhere. Completely agree. I do think that's a wart on this team, that when they're not hitting. And Cole, I want to address this here quick, because are we worried about Ant walking off the court and declining to talk to media? I'll throw this one to Ryan, because all I saw was, it looked like Finch was pulling him out of the game, and Ant throws the towel up in the air and walks to the tunnel. Any more on that, Ryan?
Not really, because he didn't talk to media. I mean, being concerned about talking to media, obviously, like personally, that's not something I like. But like, uh, ultimately, I'm on the court. I really, I don't think it's the impact. I'd be hard pressed to like say that's why they're losing games, certainly. But um, yeah, I don't know. Like when I think they need more from Ant on the leadership stuff and on the leadership front, because when things are going well, I think he's a really good leader. He pumps his guys up, does all that. But I think when things are not going well, whether it's his fault or not, which I would say offensively was not necessarily his fault tonight, but certainly defensively he played a part in that, as everyone on the court did. Um, I don't think he does a good job of like getting them to turn that around, and some of that will come with age, and some of it they need it from him right now.
Yeah, completely agree. Like, bad look. I said the same thing. I think it was early last year with Julius just kind of left the bench with 4 minutes left, and it wasn't to go, say hi to his wife and kids, which he does at home when he leaves the bench early. Like, I don't like that stuff. Like, if you're part of the reason you're getting beaten by 30 for the Hawks, you should kind of have to sit on the bench and feel that. Godfrey just asks real quick, does Ant not run out when his name is called pregame? No, he doesn't. Sometimes he's there if it's like a big game, or like, there's some occasion or national TV, he'll be out there, but normally he's back in the tunnel until right before tip. Or he'll shoot around and then go back to the tunnel. Julius also doesn't always come out when his name's out. It's just like a pregame routine thing. I think he just does something in the back. Who knows? Someday I'll wander back there and not get stopped by security and then snoop. But Cole agrees with us. Ant needs to take on some of that Kobe Jordan mentality, even more so than that. Like, I think every player that's won at that level, you look at LeBron, like LeBron is really good at talking people up in the public and then holding them accountable. Tim Duncan, I don't think he gets a lot of the respect. Jokic, I think, is really good at this too, of like just figuring out how to motivate these role players and guys to play hard. But Ryan, anything you want to add to all of the chat catch up there?
Yeah, I guess last thing I'll add just in general is I did get to talk to Nikhil before the game, talk to him about just everything. I think he, especially like this game coming on the last game of 2025, which obviously starts the calendar year with the Wolves, another solid playoff run, and then signs the big deal. He just seems like very settled, mentally focused in. And I asked him, well, you're playing well, that's great, right? And he's like, yeah, it's not even just that. It's just like, I think he was very grateful and happy for his time in Minnesota, and it worked. It went really well for him, obviously, but it's just like the people as much as anything. He specifically mentioned like the other fathers on the team who all had kids right around the same time of the year or whatever. And even Rudy said a second kid since Nikhil's departed, and he talked about one of the regular season games in Denver when his kid was born. He had to rush out of there and catch a Spirit flight home to catch the birth, which he didn't end up needing to do, of course, because the labor unfortunately lasted longer than, maybe not, it didn't last longer than it was supposed to, just on the whatever.
Spirit was running on time.
Yeah. So, which is, I'll need Spirit tomorrow to get to Miami. So wish me luck there. But he just seemed really grateful for the time. And I think it was nice for him to like close out 2025, getting to play the Wolves, see his guys, and maybe he can move forward. But it's another game where I just think they really missed him. They missed his consistency. He was another guy that in games like this would turn it around. And I guess you just hope he didn't take that with him to Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like seeing Nikhil out there, I saw your post too about talking to him beforehand, like miss the dude. I think my favorite story I ever had with him was talking to him about the fans. And he was just saying like how special it is up here, how like he came home from the road trip against LA and like his neighborhood, people in his neighborhood had done like chalk art and put like balloons out in front of his house. And then he was like, I was shocked because then it started raining and they were going out there and putting bags on it to like preserve it. And like, I think he had a special bond with Minnesota. I do want to get into kind of what does this team do aspect of it, of just, I'll ask it kind of open-ended. Do you feel like there is an answer on roster? Do you feel like they just need to kind of get past this woe? Do you feel like a trade is coming? Kind of what are your thoughts on what is needed to break this?
I think what's frustrating about nights like tonight is like they don't play even well enough to get like a sample size of like what needs to change, what strategic things are going wrong. Like it's just like that was a dud. I'm not sure probably the biggest takeaway like on the court wise from the game is the minutes where the young guys are out there. You can probably take some stuff from that. But like as far as like the regular rotation guys, like there's nothing strategy wise. I don't think like you need to get your mind right before you can even start breaking down like the film of it or whatever. But like going back to like the Denver game, I think they need a backup big. More than the guards. I think tonight was probably a more worrying part about the guards. Like Bones didn't play well. Mike is what he is at this point. And Rob is continues to be out of the rotation, and obviously Shannon's hurt. So they're a lot more thin than I think any of us expected coming into the year. Basically, every sort of potential now replacement has not really worked out. But to me, the easiest thing is would be to add a big. The problem is like Nas, Rudy, and Julius already take up all the big minutes. And so are you going to limit any of those three guys' minutes? I don't know. So that would necessitate Nas playing the three to open up the backup center minutes. Maybe that works. Maybe that doesn't. I know Dane Moore has already talked about this on his pod, but like probably got to experiment with that.
Have not been great.
Yeah, but you got to experiment it at some point. But like it goes back to what I said. You couldn't experiment with it tonight. It was just going to look bad, and like because everything looked bad. So they got to figure out whatever mentally is going on with the team or whatever, and then you can start to deal with. Do we want to? The problem is if you can like cobble together, if you want to punt on like Shannon and like you can put together Terrence Dillingham and another salary.
Throw Lenny in there. He's making a smooth $3 million.
You can get up to like that's like $8 million or something, and you could trade that for a half decent backup big. Like that would work. But if you're going to do anything more than like an $8 million player, you're sending out one of the like core 6 rotation players, or you're sending out Mike, which we've already talked about, like this team needing leadership. I'm not sure trading Mike that's obviously likely to make that worse or not help it. So any trade you make with those top 6 guys, like I think Julius and Nas make the most sense in terms of those are both power forwards, so you could shift your positions that way. But like trading Dante, like this team, I don't know if this team has enough shooting without Dante. Trading Julius, well, that's like your second leading scorer. You need to add in a second leading scorer if you're going to trade him away. Trading Rudy would just be like a non-starter. Like they have no defense without Rudy on the court. So
the Rudy trade has taken a 180. Like I still don't think he's necessarily tradable mid-season. I think teams are. I mean, there's some dumb teams in the league, but like most of the teams that would be interested in a Rudy Gobert kind of know, like, if we get this guy mid-year, it's probably not going to work until next year. So why not wait until the offseason and keep our assets? But like the Wolves need him so much more than any value he would get. Like they are quite literally one of the worst defenses in the league anytime that guy sits, no matter who is out there, whether it's Jaden Clark, Mike, and like Julius and Nas, it's still a terrible defense. I do want to just, again, going back to your, like the backup point guard thing, like Bones doesn't have a very good game offensively. Mike takes 2 shots. He has the worst net rating on the team tonight at a minus 57.7. He also had the best defensive rating on the team today at 112.5.
So they were just never scoring when he was out there?
Offensive rating of 54.8 with Mike Conley on the court. And CD asks, do you feel Mike played point guard today? No. Like, I feel like Mike was just a corner wing guy that was guarding pick and rolls on defense. Like,
yeah, if you're going to play Mike, obviously, like he has to be on the ball, and obviously he doesn't have to be James Harden out there usage wise. But like I don't think like you have better options if you're just going to stick Mike in the corner, unfortunately, or maybe you don't because Jalen Clark is. I think he's inching closer to 30% 3-point shooting on the season. That's
He's
another
getting
big
there.
aspect of it where it's like, obviously when he shot like 45% on low volume last year, I don't think any of us thought that was where he would sit, but they need him, and he got like beat on defense tonight too. So far from the only person though that got beat defensively.
He is officially 33% on the season now. I mean, it's
one
like
of his
I
last
agree with
12,
you.
I believe.
Yeah. Yep. 0 for 12. That's his current streak. I mean, I think you're spot on with the Mike thing. If you're going to have Mike out there, you got to run the offense through him. But if Mike is playing with Bones is kind of the initiator, I think, in that hierarchy, or at least Bones kind of gets the ball off the inbound, and then Ant is kind of the same way. It's just weird. Godfrey asks, what do we think about Ant's defense? Looks pretty bad. I mean, today it was not great. I mean, the amount of back cuts and just ball watching
hasn't been good enough all season, but writ large, it's a team-wide problem on nights like tonight.
I think Ant is kind of a traditional superstar where, like, if you go back and watch an entire, like, go back and watch like a Kobe versus, like, I don't know, the Lamar Odom Clippers team. Like, just go back and watch one of those games. Like, Kobe wasn't locked in all the time on defense, but like end of quarters and fourth quarter, Kobe was the all defensive player that he was. I don't think Ant is even to that point yet. I think he can get there in the fourth quarter, but throughout the first three, he's middling at best, I guess. Godfrey says, my Knicks want Dante back, trade him for Miles McBride. I do like Miles McBride. I think I've said it a few times, but like I also like Dante. Like, I wouldn't be willing to give up on him yet, but I do want to touch on Cole's point here, though, before we get out of here, Ryan, of just Tim Connolly put this team in an awful position, no trade assets. I will agree with you for this season. Like, this season, it's really hard to make a trade work while keeping enough pieces to remain competitive. Like, I know the Trae Young, obviously we're playing Atlanta. All this stuff comes out about him being not going to be there after the deadline. That kind of sparks fire. And it's like, to get Trae, you got to get to like 58 million in salary. That's like Julius, Dante, and Mike to like get to that level. And if you don't include Mike, then it's like Julius, Dante, Rob, Lenny, Shannon, everybody. Like, it's not a good position right now, but this offseason, as soon as they make their pick and the draft is over, July is usually when the draft is, it opens up that 2033 first round pick. It opens up the 2032 first round pick swap, and they can trade whoever they pick this year. I mean, that makes these deals a lot easier. Mike is off the books. Joe is off the books. Bones is off the books. They dip into just a hard cap team. You don't have to match salary as closely, just 75% as opposed to 90%. And you have those 3 first-round picks. So I kind of look at it of like anyone that's a big star that you're looking at right now, it just makes more sense to wait until after the season. But what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they don't have the trade assets. If they're between like a positive asset team like OKC or San Antonio, a neutral asset team like, I don't even know, Detroit.
Detroit's got some picks.
I think they're neutral, whatever, doesn't matter. And those are like in the negative category with like Denver, or not quite as bad as Milwaukee, but that'd be another negative asset team. So they're definitely in that category. But to say no trade assets, like you outlined, when the offseason comes, their 2033 pick will be unlocked. You could trade that along with another swap. There's a couple swaps you can do. And then they do have some player assets. I mean, yeah, the big elephant in the room is the pick you sent out for Rob. That's,
yeah.
I don't really mind whoever that the 7th grader that ends up getting picked there is whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, if they had 2 picks to trade this offseason, you'd be looking at a lot different stuff. What is nice is next offseason they will have room under whatever aprons to sign like a mid-level type exception player. So that can hopefully help fix the depth issues that you have. And Mike's $10 million come off the books, and if Mike wants to play next year, you can have him back on a league minimum. There's $8 million that you can spend elsewhere. So yeah, the cupboards aren't bare, but like it's going to be a needle they have to thread. Whatever, I've been saying this for feels like a couple years now, is the Wolves are like, they need one more big swing trade that will determine the next 4 or 5 years of the Wolves, whenever that comes, probably the offseason. And they're on strike 2. How about that? They're on, like, if they swing and miss again, I don't know if this team's going to be good enough in the current iteration. But I don't think you need to hit a home run either. A double, like, there's men on base, so you just need a double, and you'll in this tortured analogy. I don't know if scoring a run means whatever, if that's a championship or what, or if it's just a solid team. I don't know, but it's a precarious situation, but one that, I mean, other than the Dillingham pick, Conley's made pretty much solid moves across the board. So I guess you just hope that the next big move, whether it's deadline next year, whenever, that they're able to make the correct one, because I think it's going to be a big factor in what next year's team, the year after that, what those teams can do.
I do agree with you. I think right now their roster is a we're giving ourselves a chance roster, right? Like, let's say the Jokic knee hyperextension happens in April, and then, you know, Shea goes down with an ankle injury and he's playing injured in the playoffs, and now all of a sudden there's a path, and like, the Wolves are right there. They have the talent, they have a chance. What is the old poker analogy, like chip and a chance type of thing? It will be there, which Cole brings up. So this isn't the year for a championship. I mean, I feel like I've been pretty consistent of like, no, it's Oklahoma City's year for a championship, and everyone else is just has a chance. Maybe Shea gets ice cold, playoff officiating, J-Dub gets hurt. Like, you never know, but you got to give yourself a seat at that table. This offseason, I agree with you, though, Ryan. Like, that's where, you know, if you want to go Giannis hunting, you can say, here's Julius, here's Rob, TJ, Jalen, our first-round pick this year, a swap, a future first, and Dante. And, I mean, OKC and the Spurs are going to be able to give better options. The Magic are probably going to give better options, but at least you're, like, competitive in getting those guys. Whereas right now, it's just Milwaukee isn't going to trade Giannis for just like Rudy and Dante. Like, it's just the Thunder can offer J-Dub and 117 first round picks. Like, you even look at the Spurs, they could go Castle, Keldon Johnson, Sohan, and like 5 first round picks. Like, it just right now they don't even have a seat at that trade table, but because they kept the roster the same, they at least have a chance at winning something this year, which I think if they would have just blown it up and said like, all right, Julius, we're trading you for picks, Rudy, we're getting you out of here, you're kind of acknowledging a rebuild. And then, like you said, this offseason's where we see a swing, I would assume, at least, because Rudy and Julius are on those 1+1 year contracts. They're hard capped instead of aproned, and we'll see. Which, to your point again, Tim Conley has had a pretty good hit percentage despite this roster seeming broken at times.
Yep, and I don't think they're terribly far away from whatever they can do. I mean, what's frustrating is I think the 2 seed in the West is wide open, especially with Jokic's injury, and it just feels like they're losing margin of error here if they want to go up and get that 2 seed. Just because, like, you only got someone, like, if they're only trying to pass one team, that's fine. But like, just by the law of numbers, one of these 4 teams ahead of them is going to have a solid second half of the season. And if you're 3 games behind them, you have to have a 60 win pace second half to catch them. And obviously what we've seen from this team this month, like, they're not close to that, which in terms of like making whatever West finals, I think they could still do that. It's like the 6th seed, especially if like Denver falls to 5 and the Spurs are unproven or whatever. Like, you can make the West Finals again, but like the championship stuff, I think they're said this last year. There's no need to rule it out now. But like obviously the way they're playing right now, they're not all that close to that level of play.
That and Ant is still a couple of years away from that 27-year season that I think everybody kind of circles of like this is when the limitless pill starts taking place. But also like
I'm also kind of tired of waiting for that. I think it's time. It's been time. He needs to be a bigger leader. The defense needs to be consistent. All that stuff. Like, it's time now because you're only going to get so many chances. I mean, you can look at teams in NBA history where you go, well, they're young. They'll be good next year, and it's just like actually their best shot was that one year when OKC with the Westbrook, Durant, Harden is obviously the premier example, but.
T-Mac with Yao Ming, Jason Kidd with Vince Carter.
It's a worry of mine.
Previous Dirk team before they traded for Kidd, and it was Dirk in 2004. Like there are a lot of cases where it just the Lob City Clippers even like it goes fast. So I do agree. I do respect that point of it is like you can't just waste years. It's this year, though, I think could be one of those, they could make the Western Conference Finals. I wouldn't expect them to get bounced in the first round. I think they're just way too talented. And when the lights are on, they play well.
They absolutely could get bounced in the first round. There's so many good teams. They could play very well down the stretch, play very well in a series and lose in the first round. And that's why this stuff is so concerning is like if you're going to make the finals, you're going to have probably 3 bloodbath series to get there.
I would still, if I was betting money, I would say the Wolves make it past the first round. I don't think they'll make it past the second round right now because of exactly what you're saying. Like, if they get matched up with, let's say it is like the Lakers, like that's probably a 6-game series. And then they go and play the Nuggets, Spurs, Oklahoma City, or Houston. Like that just sucks that's the reality of the Western Conference, but it's not. It's also you gotta win these games. If they beat Brooklyn and they win here tonight, they're a game behind the 2 seed, and I think the vibes are great. But unfortunately, this team has a track record of doing things the hard way.
Yep.
Ryan, I do want to give you space here before we get out of here. Anything you want to plug? Where can people find you? And please direct people to your Twitter where you do have that Chris Finch post-game conference posted.
Yeah, Twitter, REICHTEN. You can go check that out on Twitter and Blue Sky. My podcast, 2 Words Wolves Pod, will have one out later this week based on this game, as well as a piece tomorrow just on whatever the heck happened tonight. Still got to kind of go back through and listen to some player quotes and put something together for tomorrow morning. So check that out.
Ryan is one of the gamers that puts together post-game pieces that every once in a while I see him have to delete half his article because the Wolves do something absolutely
not
insane.
Tonight. My guy, my guy Tilo took the gamer tonight, so I get to relax, go have some dinner, and then write something up.
Well, hey, enjoy the warmth, Ryan. I appreciate you coming on. For anyone that joined the pod or the live stream here late, it will be posted on New Year's Day, the 1st at 7 a.m. Anywhere you listen to your podcasts. It will go live over on YouTube as soon as I end recording here, if you can't wait until tomorrow morning. And it'll live on forever on X, and we'll be back live again after the Heat game. Ryan won't be with me, but he will be in Miami. Please go follow him on socials. He does awesome work, awesome writing. And again, I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, dude.